What up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Yeah, this was a long time coming. As for me, who had played The Last of Us Part 2, we get into the second episode of season 2 of The Last of Us, the series, and yeah, I predicted that this was going to come for a certain character's fate. We know that as gamers who have played through the game back in 2020 and how angry and how rageable we are. But let me warn you ahead of time. I will be getting into the spoiler territory in this episode, and I will give some of the spoilers from the game to make a comparison from The Last of Us Part 2, the game, and the show itself. Now, if you have not watched the show or even played through the game, best be sure to get off of it right now, add this video to your favorites list, and come back later after you're done watching the show and getting caught up. And if you don't care for spoilers when I make a comparison to the game, then you can just watch it away if you don't care for that, because I still think you should definitely play the game so that you will know, or even watch through the cutscenes if you don't want to play through the game itself. So be aware, you have been warned. Now, in the beginning of the episode, we go through Abby's nightmare sequences when she's going through the hall, and we know that this is going to be the other angle from the perspective when Joel came in and killed a lot of the Firefly units and killed Abby's father, who was the doctor who was performing the procedure on Ellie in that episode. And then she turns around and sees her older self. So it was clearly more of a nightmare sequences and going through the memories and telling her younger self to not go there and not and no, don't experience it. I don't know if it was just because it was on purpose that part of her didn't want to know what the hell was in that room and didn't want to know about her father's death and didn't have to go through all that trouble to go through quest for her revenge. Then she wakes up and then they see that her people have found out that there is full of town full of people and they were not prepared for it. So Abby had to come up with a different plan, and Owen says that hey, Owen was willing to turn back and that they were outnumbered and there's no way that we were ever going to get through them. But in this episode has a lot of spectacle with the hordes of runners. The moment that when Abby goes down the hill and tries to find these two patrols, which is Joel and Dina, because what Joel and Dina going on patrol instead of Tommy with Joel, because in the game, if you played through the game in The Last of Us Part 2, it was Tommy who goes on the patrol with Joel in the game when we meet up later on when Joel saves Abby's life and they have to team up in the video game. But in this one, they did a big switcher up with Joel and Dina going on a patrol. And I think, you know what? I think that this made a little bit more logical sense to have Dina be a partner up with Joel, because Dina was originally going on a patrol with Ellie in the game, and then now they did a big switch where they have Jesse going on the patrol with Ellie, and then we see in the episode in the scene there's a full pot underground in a compound where the character Eugene, which they name dropped it, which is that their therapist, played by Catherine O'Hara, who is the husband, the one that Joe killed. And we get a little bit more context. Apparently, he has a pot factory, which how convenient that they dropped this episode on the day of Easter and even 420, which that was a little bit on the nose and very ironic that they dropped it in the episode on the Sundays, because they know when and where that they're going to show the context of the scene. And then we find out that that Eugene was Jesse's patrol partner, and it looks like that the way he was explaining about how he died is that Joel probably had to put him down because he probably got turned and things went completely wrong. And originally, 10 years before that, he was a Firefly. Apparently, Eugene was a Firefly, but then he quit and left the Firefly unit of the militia group. And I thought that that was a really good context. And I believe that once we get into the flashbacks, I think we will get into the episode when we see Joel and Eugene going on the patrol back in the day. And I think that that would add a little bit more context and add a little bit more character depth to Eugene, because they only name dropped him in the game and it wasn't very well clear about his character arc. And I feel like that's what Craig Mason and Neil Druckmann wanted to do in this episode, give him a little bit more character depth so that we can have a better of an understanding and have a little bit of a deep impact to the story. So now that Abby has triggered a lot more hordes of fucking runners, and including one bloater. And this episode is very spectacle driven. It's had a lot of action heavy. And this one, we see that now they're going to get attacked in the city of Jackson. And I thought that the sequences was absolutely beautiful. It felt like a little bit of the mixture of the Game of Thrones battle and the Lord of the Rings, the Two Towers of the Battle of Helm's Deep sequences. They have their own version of that Battle of the Helm's Deep sequences, and Tommy is going to have to lead his own people and have to protect the town. And I thought that that was better than what they were shown in the game, because they know that they mentioned in the game that there have been many attacks, but in this one they're going to show you the full attack, and it would make a lot more sense why that Tommy has to get left behind and protect the whole town and not be able to get to Joel on time. And I liked the part where now the Abby beats up with Joel after she was being attacked by hordes of runners, and that's exactly what happened in the game because it caught me off guard when Abby is trying to go and search for Joel. She runs into the bunch of hordes of runners. I love that the scene where she goes down the hill, falls down, and there's a bunch of them buried in the ground, and one of them comes out alive. Visually, it looked incredible, and I remember that in the game a little bit that they kind of did something similar to that, but you had to be stealthy. But they didn't have a bunch of runners in the game, and Jackson was not attacked in the version of the game. So I felt like that it had made more logical sense, and that they're so distracted that they can't communicate or contact with a bunch of people on the patrol with Dina and Joel and even Ellie and Jesse. So they're out of radio contact and there's nothing they can do. And now they're overrun. And then the bloater, they finally brought back the bloater again since we last saw it in season two. And it was fucking insane. I will say that the practical effects that they did, and they tweaked it a little bit of CGI, but they made it more realistic, and it was so good at the way that they crafted the spectacle of it, and how they construct it was good. And I love when Tommy goes up against a bloater with a flame torch. Holy shit. I mean, he had to keep it distracted because it was going to his wife when she was standing on the rooftop shooting a bunch of runners. And I thought for myself, are they going to kill him off in this show so early on? Because they did not do that when he was with Joel on the patrol in the video game version. So I thought that oh my God, are we going to see another casualty in this episode? No, thank God he was able to kill it on time when he was using the torch, a flamethrower, as much as he could on the bloater. Now that we meet with Abby with Joel, saves her life with a bunch of hordes of fucking runners and clickers. Now they're trapped and they're outnumbered, and they're out in the blistering cold. There's a big huge winter storm, blizzard, and they had two choices. They're going to be dead either way. Dina had to tell Joel, we either go or we die, or we stay, we die. So they have no other choice but to leave. But Abby suggested she has her own people up in the mountains. So Joel had to make the tough choice. And I like the part that what they did better in this one is that Dina shout out to Joe's name, and Abby was able to hear it very quickly. Because I think that made a lot more logical sense. But because in the game version, when Tommy and Joel goes to Abby's place in a compound where her people were being kept, they just simply gave up their names, especially with Tommy, which was so out of character. Because Joel's always been more careful of who he meets and who he trusts, and giving up their own place. Because in the moment with this one made a lot more sense, and I thought that worked. She was able to catch that name because she was searching for him, and she didn't really quite know exactly what he looked like, even though she kind of knows the idea of the description of Joel. So I thought in the context it made sense. But then they work together, but it doesn't last long because they're out in the blizzard and they had to go. And Dina is going in the middle of a hypothermia. She is freezing to death. She's not looking so good. They have no other choice. Joel was willing to turn back to the town because they know that the place is on fire in Jackson. But Dina suggested that they're not going to make it on time. Abby just had to say, no, we have to go to my place. We have weapons. We have supplies. We have medicine, blah, blah, blah. So Joel had to make the quick, tough decision. And I thought that really worked. Now we get into the place when Joel meets up with the whole crew. But he is so caught up on trying to communicate in Jackson that he's not so big on small talks. He's not going to do any of that. And I thought that one made more sense, and that did not feel like a character assassination, kind of like they did in the game. Because that scene itself made no sense. They easily trusted them so quickly, and it made Tommy look like an idiot from the video game version. Now, for those of you have already played the game, you know that Joel gets killed off by Abby. He gets ambushed by her, shooting him in the kneecap, getting beat to death with a fucking golf club. And that scene itself, when I played that game, I was shocked, took him by off guard, and I was like, what the fuck? Are you serious? I was so angry and so fucking sad, and I was so pissed off with Abby. I really fucking hated her for that moment, even when they did not do a good job of introducing that character in the game. But I thought in this one, even though I'm not rooting for Abby, but I get where she's coming from now that they showed more context in the beginning of the first episode that she is out for revenge because Joe killed her father, the one doctor that performed on the was about to perform the procedure on Ellie while she was under because they were trying to create the vaccine, and in order to do that, they have to kill her. And Joe gunned him down in the season 1 finale. Now, I like this part where she's given her a little speech introducing to herself, saying that they were once Firefly. But in that moment, when Dina caught that bag that was named Wolves, she spot a little suspicious, and one of her own people grabbed her by a gunpoint and threatened to kill her if Joel didn't cooperate. And I thought that made better logical sense than the one that we got in the fucking game that it was so stupid, that had my head rolling, that it was so character assassination that it didn't make any logical sense. And look, I know I'm getting a little bit too much in the game, but I'm so pissed at the way that they did not execute well with Joel's death. This one, she's given her speech, she's given her a little bit of exposition of who she is, and trying to get him to confess of what he did. Like, when was the last time you were in at the Fireflies? And I think that what Joe said, Salt Lake, Salt Island or something. I can't remember the top of my head what it was called. I completely forgot. And that's all she needed, and shoots him in the kneecap with a shotgun like Abby did in the game. And she is so impulsive that she was fueled by revenge. Joel even told her that I saved your life, but she did not give a fuck. And that's why I'm not going to root for Abby, but I get it. Don't get me wrong. I totally understand that she was impulsive and that she is so fueled by revenge. And even her own people were having second thoughts and were like, she's going a little too far and a little bit more ruthless. But you know what? In that moment, in that pure instinct, she wants to hurt him pretty bad, wants him to suffer, beat him half to death with a golf club. And now that Joel knows who that girl is, that the one that doctor that he killed was the daughter, and he did not care. He's like, "Hey, shut the fuck up, get this over with." Because in the game version, she didn't even give any explanations and give her name at all whatsoever. And I thought this one was quite better. That way that she gives her more time to explain the situation. But Joel was like, you know what? He accepted his fate. He knows he's going to get killed, so he's not going to hear the speech. And I thought that worked a little bit better in the show. I still don't think it's the best episode of the series. It's a better episode than the one we got last week. And then she takes the golf club and just beats him half to death in his legs because she shot him in the kneecap with a shotgun and he couldn't get himself back up. I mean, which a lot of people were wondering, like, why couldn't he defend himself? Well, they're surrounded by people with guns, and and Abby threatened to kill Dina if he did not cooperate. So I thought that made a lot more sense. If that had to go the other way, Joel probably would have defended himself even if he was shot in the kneecap. He would still have physical strength left, but in that moment he couldn't. He was completely outnumbered, and they threatened to kill Dina. So there's nothing he could have done about it, and he just accepted his fate. He knows what he did was wrong. Even he did it for the right reason, and I still root for Joel for doing what he did. Sure, he didn't really have to kill the doctor. He didn't really have to do it, but he did it anyway because he knows that he was about to perform the procedure and kill Ellie in the show. Look, I'm still will never forgive what Abby did to Joel in the show or even in the game. I mean, if you want to defend Abby and root for her, I understand, and that's fair, and I completely understand why. For me, I'm never going to defend Abby what she did. I will always understand why she did it, and I get what they did with the story about a person who was once good will do terrible things in heat of revenge. And I thought the concept worked, and I thought the execution in this episode was much better. I think this was better than the game. And it did not make Tommy look like a fucking idiot. And when they did that in the game, in this show, he had to defend the whole town. And I thought that was so good, the way that they craft the spectacle of it. Now we get into Ellie meeting up in the house where Abby is at. And and she saw the trails. That's why she followed the trails to find Joel and Dina. And and Dina is already down because they had to put her to sleep for an hour because she was already freezing half to death and she was nearly like frost, and she probably had a little bit of a partial frostbite from what I've seen, if I remember correctly. But yeah, like Abby is beating Joel half to death, not just with the golf club but with her fists. That he is pinned down and he can't get himself back up, and Ellie gets right in, and she was about to take them all out, but then she got surrounded and ambushed, and they hold her down and make her watch Abby fucking take that piece of broken that golf club and fucking stabbed him in the neck. Oh my God. Because in the game version, she just took the golf club and just beat him out of a big blow. But you see Ellie fucking screaming and begging to stop. And now, after seeing Abby killing Joel, that's going to set her for revenge. My only negative that I will say that they made a mistake from the game and now in the show is that they left her alive, and even Dina, because Dina knows their names and she witnessed it, but not witnessed the death even before she was put under, because she saw the bag, the name Wolves, and they know their names, and she knows that that's Abby, who is the leader of the group. So that's that. I thought that was a little bit of a minor mistake, but I get it. But I get that Abby was just only after Joel because she had no intention of killing anyone out there, but she left a lot of loose ends, and I thought that was not a really smart move on Abby's part. Because what do you think is going to happen? You think that Ellie is not going to do anything to get her revenge? She just witnessed you fucking killing him, putting like fucking slaughter him. And from her perspective, now it's going to be what Abby had witnessed. Now she's going to be out revenge, and that's going to set on a revenge quest. Look, I was never a big fan of this whole petty revenge quest in the game. I felt like that was kind of a drag to me, and I didn't like how they've handled it. But look, I'm willing to give this one a pass because I know that they have to set the story for Ellie and Dina going on the revenge quest, and that's going to give Dina more reason to want to go with Ellie. Because I remember in the game when when Ellie and Dina were on a patrol, and Joel and Tommy were outrun by hordes of runners and clickers and teaming up with Abby, when they were doing separately, simultaneously in the scene in the game, they had a love scene. They had a love scene that they completely took out of the show. They did not want to put that in there. They thought, hey, this one worked a lot better. I don't mind if they want to add a love scene because we know that Dina and Ellie have a love connection, and we know that they're going to have a love scene at some point. Maybe not in this one, but I believe at some point we will get some scenes in there. But I thought that this one made more logical sense. A couple of my favorite moments in this episode that I was really shocked to see is one scene in Jackson when Tommy's wife opens the cage full of fucking hound dogs attacking the runners in the town. That was a jaw-dropping moment that I really love. Seeing the dogs fucking tearing runners apart was absolutely awesome. I enjoy that moment. That one took me off guard. I didn't expect that they have a bunch of army of train of hound dogs coming and fucking murdering every last one of these fucking runners and clickers. That was awesome to me. That they were really well trained and really well prepared. It was a great way to clean them out in this whole town when they were being outnumbered. And another moment that was very sad to watch is when Ellie goes up to Joel's dead body after he was being killed, after Abby and his people left, and she lays on top of him, comforting him. That was a big of a parallel for what we saw in the last season when Joel was completely unconscious and very badly wounded. Ellie sleeps next to him in the last season. I thought that was a great parallel. And it was another great parallel, that a big of a throwback to the original Lion King movie from the animated film when Simba loses his dad, and he sleeps right next to him while he's dead in the ground. That scene was heartbreaking. I love how they did the shot and the camera work when they tilt up from the top side of it, and that was a good scene to me that I got really choked up. And yeah, but like I want to go back to one scene when Ellie and Jesse were having a conversation, but before they go out to patrol, and that Jesse asks Ellie that what's with you and Joel. and Ellie said, like, "Hey, we hashed it out." Because I thought they were not going to show them hashing it out in the scene when she sees him on the porch playing the guitar. And I was told that they misled us and that they're going to show that scene later in the season when they show the context of them hashing it out. And that's what they did in the game. They did not show that. They showed it in the flashback sequences of them hashing it out and then have a little bit closure. But overall, this scene really hit hard on so many levels because I'm so fucking pissed that Abby killed Joe. I understand why. Don't get me wrong. Don't come at me in the comments. I know why she did it. I get from her point of view that she is so angry. She lost her father by a man, Joel, and gunned him down. And now she is impulsive and she will do everything she can to get what she wants. And she did. And it plays at the end of the scene when there's a music playing, and I can't remember what song it was. I think it was "Take on Me," but I don't remember. But I remember the song playing during the time when they were first promoting The Last of Us Part 2 for the game, for the announcement. And before they even finished the game, they were still in development. But they showed a promo of Ellie playing the guitar, and she was playing the song, and Joel comes up to her in the hallway. And that's the same exact song from the promo itself. And this was performed by Ashley Johnson, who played Ellie in the game. And I thought that was a great way to bring that back into the show. And then the song and the context, and having that was a great tribute, and it felt right for the story. And now Ellie is so angry and very vengeful. And I can't wait to see what's going to happen in the next episode. I think Bella Ramsey put on an amazing performance. Even the cast, including Caitlin Dever, who played Abby, even though I fucking hate her so much and I want her to die. But you know what? She did a great job. Even though she's not very tall or bulky like the original Ellie from the game, but I thought she really put on a convincing performance. Now, what did you think of this episode of The Last of Us Season 2? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button and share this video if you can. And if you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notifications so you know when my videos are up. I will be continuing the journey of the second season of The Last of Us show for HBO. Right now, I'm really liking it so far, even though I'm still fucking angry of what they did with the character of Joel because I really loved his character. But we already know that we're going to get a lot more flashbacks with Joel and Ellie throughout the whole season. So it won't be the last time we see Joel from this season because he's still labeled as a leading character in the series. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. And if you want to follow my social media links, the link tree will be down in the description down below. And I hope you guys have a great day, great evening, wherever you're from. I hope you had a great Easter with your family. And stay tuned for more of my content.